Now, what's your name?
Dave.
Dave and I were talking about a date that's coming up, and I want to talk about that. Because it has some rather interesting and scary aspects. Any of you know what they are before I talk about them? Any of you sufficiently well informed? I'm talking about the year 2008. I didn't tell you what I was talking about. 2008 to 2012, that period. Okay. In 2008, Pluto enters the sign of Capricorn. And it moves slowly. And Uranus comes along and enters Aries in 2010. And squares it. Then the same year, Saturn comes around to Libra. And you have a Saturn-Uranus-Pluto T-square. Now, fortunately, it's not going to last too long. I mean, at its height. The square will last for a while. But it's interesting, the last time you had a T-square of these three planets, and by the way, Jupiter's on top of it too. The last time you had a T-square of these four planets in cardinal signs was the Great Depression. Then Neptune is coming along here in 2012 and entering Pisces. Now, interestingly, in the year 1929, it entered the sign Virgo, the opposite complementary sign. And in last time it entered Pisces was 1848. So that gives you clues as to what might happen in these years. You were also talking that Pluto in Capricorn is always a major time of new beginnings. Previous two times were the beginning of the Reformation when Martin Luther hammered his theses up on the wall, and 1762 when Rousseau wrote The Social Contract and Frederick the Great established benevolent despotism. And a few other things happened too, I forget. Well, it was the end of the French and Indian War, 1763, which led right into the American Revolution. So, in 2008 then, you can look for similar events, important new beginnings in government and politics and the ideas of how to structure society. I've also heard a prophecy that the next pope will be the last. Have you heard that? And since this is 500 years since 1517, and Neptune is entering Pisces more or less as it was then, maybe we'll have a new Reformation. Stands to reason. I think this will be a critical event, critical events. And the way I look at it is going back in history, as I tend to do. I look at what happened when Neptune entered Pisces in 1848, and what happened was that there was an expansion of consciousness among the masses. Not only that they had more consciousness, but in how they thought of themselves. Up until then, they thought of themselves as members of a village or a community. But in the course of the 1848 revolutions, there was what they called the awakening of the masses, and people began to think through the nationalist and socialist movements that they were part of a class, a nation. National consciousness is what the 19th century was all about, and 1848 was the climactic moment of that, point when it really took hold. And also, there was a mass migration all over the earth. People left Ireland because of the famine and went all over the place. And famine, depression, famine, plague. Neptune was also here, and Pluto here during the Black Plague. Some things to look forward to. But let me complete my thought. When we come to 2012, which is a very legendary date now, could we be seeing the masses of humanity achieving a greater sense of identity than the national. And what would that be? Global consciousness. Humanity identifying with planet Earth, with the Earth consciousness, with humanity as a whole, with spirituality, as you say, with what Teilhard de Chardin calls the noosphere, the sphere of thought that circles the globe. A vivid sense of our connection to the Earth and to all humanity and to the Spirit. So it's a step up from its previous incarnation into Pisces. That's not the right word I want. What's the word when a planet? Ingress. Which happened right after it was discovered in 1846 and moved into Pisces. This will be the first return to Pisces since the planet has been known. So I think we will really discover Neptune. And I think it will take a planetary-wide crisis to do that. A crisis of ecological disasters, of famines, of depression, of migration, of collapse of cultures, of reformation in the church, all of that. Look forward to that in the year 2010. And don't make any unwise investments.